Hi everyone, it's Chloe Bishan, and I chose to study the biology behind bipolar disorder. I chose to research this because I'm very interested in psychology and I love learning about mental disorders. And since we recently learned about genetics, I thought it would be the perfect way to tie it into the course. I looked into a couple different factors that can contribute to bipolar disorder, and those include genetics, family, and environmental factors. So, bipolar disorder is a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings, which involves emotional lows known as depression and high stages known as mania. So, this chart here explains it a little bit. Some examples of mania is extremely high energy, high levels of self esteem, loud, rapid speech, no need for much sleep, and engaging in risky behaviors. And then some for depression is feeling of largeny, both physical and mentally, a sense of personal worthlessness, eating too much or too little, overwhelming sadness, and thoughts of suicide. So now we'll look into the factors of genetics. So the risks of developing bipolar disorder in relatives: if you're an identical twin, it's 70%, fraternal twin, 15 to 25%, offspring of one ill parent, 15 to 30%, offspring of two ill parents, 50 to 75%, a sibling, 15 to 25%, second degree relative, 3 to 7%, and the general population has a 1% risk. So some things I've learned from a study on genetics and reading the article. Genetics plays a role in developing bipolar disorder, but obviously is not the only factor, as we already know. And it does not mean if your parent has it or your grandparent has it, does not mean you're going to get it. There's a lot of factors at play, which one is there are so many different combinations of genes that result in the disorder. It's a lot harder for scientists to track it, which goes to the next one. It was very stressed in the scientific journal that genetic testing for mental disorders is not fully established yet. It can still result in a lot of misconceptions. And finally, it is rare for bipolar disorder to be passed on for several generations. So next, in family factors, they looked into two experimental groups, one with overprotective parents and one with low care parents. And it was found that the low care families had a higher risk of developing bipolar disorder. More specifically, abuse from fathers and neglect from mothers gave greater odds, and trauma also showed greater odds. This right here is a part of a chart that I couldn't fit on because it was really big. So factor 1 is emotional abuse or neglect, factor 2 sexual abuse, and factor 3 physical abuse. And down here, it gives 3 examples of kind of the family structure, and it shows how much each one relates to the factors. And finally, we'll look at environmental factors, which I chose substance abuse, drugs, and alcohol. So with bipolar 1 and substance abuse, only people with bipolar 1 is 39%, bipolar 1 with alcohol and drugs, 26%, bipolar 1 with just drugs, 15%, and bipolar 1 with alcohol, 20%. And then bipolar 2, only 51%, bipolar 2 with drugs, 9%, bipolar 2 with alcohol, 28%, and bipolar 2 with drugs and alcohol, 12%. And finally, here are my sources I used, which include 2 of the scientific articles that I used early on. Thank you.